Hi, this is Nam from Easy Sunday Club, and today I am going to compare two fine art printers. One, the Epson SureColor Pro P800 with its replacement printer, the Epson SureColor Pro P900. Why am I making this video? The reason is because we currently use the Epson SureColor Pro P800 for most of our art prints and for our cards that we make at home. And the new Epson SureColor Pro P900 is about to drop, and we got to figure out whether or not we should upgrade to the latest and greatest thing, or whether or not we should just stay put with our P800. And I'm sure people out there have the same question on their mind. Should they go for this new pretty printer that's about to drop, or should they just buy the existing P800 for maybe a little bit cheaper or buy a used version? The way that I want to break out this video is first I want to talk about an overview of both of the printers, and then I want to dive into the differences in inks of the P800 and the P900, and then I'll jump into the differences in the hardware specs between the P800 and P900. And then I'll have some closing thoughts, and hopefully it helps you. So let's jump into it. The P800 was released in 2015, where the P900 is due to release in 2020. It was actually supposed to release earlier this summer, but due to coronavirus and slowdowns in the supply chain, it's being delayed. And you can pre-order it now on a bunch of sites. Some people have gotten their hands on it, but it's not widely distributed to be able to be purchased at the time of filming this video. Let's talk about the price. So the P800 retails for $1,295, and it currently comes with a $300 rebate, which means that can take it down to $995. Because it is been out for a while, you can probably snag one for used as well. The used market is always something you should consider of buying one of these expensive printers, just because artists usually handle these hardware purchases with care. So it's not like a car where they're doing donuts in a parking lot. Most likely that it's cared and used with a lot of love. The P900, on the other hand, that's retailing for $1,195, which is pretty surprising because it's $100 less than what the current P800 retails for. At the time of this taping, I am not sure whether or not there is going to be a rebate. Predecessor for the P800 was the Stylus Pro 3880, which is a printer we also had. And honestly, comparing the Stylus Pro 3880 to the P800, based on my eye for printing, I didn't see a huge difference. But at the time that dropped, the Stylus Pro 3880 was released in 2008 and the P800 was released in 2015. So that was about a 7-year difference, and a lot of changes in technology had happened between those two time periods. What's surprising about the P900 and why I personally was surprised was that it was releasing so soon is that it had only been 5 years since the P800 had been released. But obviously the predecessor to the P900 is the P800. Now for the P800 and the P900, there are 13-inch versions of both printers. For the P800, the 13-inch version is the P600, and for the P900, the 13-inch version is the P700. When I say 13 inches, that means that the maximum width that printer can print is 13 inches, while the P800 and P900, the maximum width that can print is 17 inches. Let's jump into the inks. The biggest difference between the two printers is the number of inks. So for the P800, that can handle only 9 different colors of ink. I'll list all those colors down. For the P900, they are adding a new ink color, and that color is violet, i.e. blue. So how this changes the game is that instead of having to mix the existing colors to make blue on the P800, the P900 will have the violet ready as another color to mix. This will make it more competitive to other fine art printers out there, i.e. Canon, that also carry 10 different colors of ink. Also, with this extra color of ink, that means that the color gamut of the P900 is going to be improved, or the range of colors that the P900 can print is going to be improved compared to the range of colors that the P800 can print. The color gamut improvement of the P900 over the P800 has improved by 6%. The other big difference between the P800 and the P900 is that there is no longer any color switching between the photo black ink and the photo matte ink. Currently on the P800, which we own, if we are printing our art prints on matte paper and then we want to print some photos on some photo paper, the printer has to dump all the matte ink out and then switch over to the photo ink. When it dumps out the matte ink, that literally costs us money because we're dumping this expensive ink and basically flushing it down the toilet, which kind of bums us out. With this new print head on the P900, there's no longer color switching between matte and photo black ink. You can just print when you need to print, and the print head can handle both of those different colored inks, which is really exciting and will save you money in the long run. Not only will it save you money in the long run, it'll save you a lot of time. Right now, when you switch from matte to photo black ink, it takes about 3 minutes and 30 seconds for that process to happen. And when you switch from photo to matte black ink, that takes about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to happen. Because of that switching of inks back and forth, we hardly ever print photos on our printer. We just leave it on matte black ink because that's how we print most of our prints as well as our cards. The next big ink change is that there is something called a carbon black mode on the P900, so that'll give you much richer blacks. So for the quality of inks and archival inks that they use, so archival means the inks last a long time and they're very high quality. The archival inks that the P800 use is something called Ultra Chrome HD, and that's set to last for 400 years for color and 200 for black and white. And this is twice the previous generation's ink in Epson 3880. This new P900, the inks that they're using on this one is called Ultra Chrome Pro 10 ink. This is going to last again for 200 years for color and 400 years for black and white. This also is going to depend on how you're storing the print, either depending on how you frame it, whether or not it's in direct sunlight, and what kind of glass it's under. For the minimum droplet size of the inks, the P800 has an accuracy of 3.5 picoliters, where the P900 can get even smaller than that and get down to 1.5 picoliters. Another big change is the size of the cartridge. For the P800, since it has 9 ink cartridges, the max size of the ink cartridges are 80 milliliters. Going to the P900, the ink cartridges have reduced. So now they're down to 50 milliliters versus 80 milliliters for the P800. Because the cartridges are smaller, I wanted to look to see whether or not the inks would be more expensive. Again, sometimes these printers, you can get them for a good deal with rebates, but the way that these printer companies continue to make money is with the recurring cost of ink. And like I said before, the cost of ink costs more per milliliter than Dom Perignon champagne. So a cost for a full set of 9 cartridges of ink for the P800, that costs $528. However, for a set of 10 ink cartridges of the 50 milliliters cartridges, that will run you $419 at the time of the recording of this video. The only way that I could compare apples to apples is to divide it and see how much it costs per milliliter. And for the P800, that's going to be 73 cents per milliliter, whereas with the P900, that's going to cost you about 84 cents per milliliter. That's 11 cents more per milliliter for the new P900, but the quality of the inks are going to be better, and you got to expect Epson's going to want to make its money somehow, right? So that's where the costs will lie. Another way to save on inks is to use third-party inks. For the P800, they try their darndest best to not let you do that. There's a lot of videos out there, but basically if you wanted to use third-party inks and use refillable ink cartridges, it can be done, but there are workarounds that take a little bit of research to figure out. For the P900 at this time, I don't know if that's possible. That's the thing with the new printer. There's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of forum information out yet about the P900, but we'll have to take a look and wait until there's more information to see whether or not you can use third-party inks in the future. For me personally, I just buy original ink from the manufacturers just because when I talk to printer repair people, they say that the #1 way to screw up your printer is to use third-party inks. So I'm just like, okay, fine. I'll just go ahead and eat this cost and write it off for my business. Jumping into the actual technical and hardware comparisons. So for resolution, the max resolution for the Epson P800 is 2880 by 1440 dpi, and the new one is better, 5760 by 1440 dpi. For the purposes of what we have to do, the P800 is fine, but just to have the option that we can do better and prettier with the P900 is pretty cool, I guess. For the touchscreen, the P800 has a 2.7 inch touchscreen, and with the P900, you have 4.3 inch touchscreen. So let's get into the size of the printer. Down here, you can see the footprint of the P800 versus the P900. Cool thing about the P900 is that they were able to make it smaller. They made it actually the size of the old P600 13-inch printer, which is pretty impressive. As far as the weight goes, they've also been able to trim off 8 pounds. So the P800 is about 43 pounds and the P900 is at 35 pounds. So if you don't have a lot of space, then P900, that's also another advantage. For accessories, the important accessory that you have to consider is the roll media adapter. So basically that's an adapter that you put behind the printer, and if you want to print a really long landscape photo or print, then you're able to do that with both the P800 and P900. That extra adapter is $250. The really cool thing is that with the P700, adapter comes built in with the P700 versus with the P600, the 13-inch version of the P800, you also had to buy that adapter. As far as warranties are concerned, they're both pretty much the same, 1 year limited warranty, and you can purchase 1 or 2 additional warranty. Going through the research for this printer and comparing what is known out there on the internet about the P900, it's pretty impressive for the price and for the cost per milliliter of ink. If I had to buy a printer now, brand new, I would definitely go for the P900 hands down. One thing about buying a brand new printer is always worried about the little kinks and quirks of a printer, just because, like I said before, printers have their own personalities and you have to treat them differently, just like you treat your pets. But I think because of the Epson brand and the support, I think it'll be a really good investment. If I didn't have that much money, what I would probably do is just buy a used P800. And having the confidence that I'm making a quality print or a quality green card, I'll definitely have that just because it's a tried and proven printer. And if I wanted to optimize the price even further, then I would use those hacks that are out there for the third-party inks. What do you guys think? Are you guys super anticipating this new P900 printer? Which printer do you prefer, the P800 or the P900 printer? Are you frustrated that the P900 printer hasn't dropped yet because of Corona and how that's not only devastated humanity and the world, but also devastated the printer supply chain? Please let us know below. If you put a comment, we'll respond to it. You can direct message us on Instagram. And if you want to support us, all you got to do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we also have a Patreon if you want to support us that way. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you guys.